Imagine not filing your US taxes for 7 years and thinking you might have ruined your life. A few months ago, a client came to us who had not filed a US tax return in 7 years. He moved to Singapore for work, started a family there, built a life there. The first year he missed the deadline, he told himself he'll catch up next year. The second year became the third, and by the seventh, he had convinced himself the situation was so far gone that there was no good path forward. He wasn't sleeping well, he was afraid to travel back to the US. He'd spent years assuming the worst. We looked at the situation. He owed some back taxes, he had some FBAR filings to catch up on, but there was no criminal exposure, no catastrophic penalty. The situation was serious, but it was completely manageable. Within 2 months, he had a clean filing record, and he had not paid anything close to what he had been imagining for 7 years. That story is not unusual. It's actually pretty representative of what we see. The reason people end up in situations like this is not dishonesty. It's being overwhelmed. The US tax system for Americans abroad is genuinely complex. And once you have missed a year, it can feel easier to not keep dealing with it than to face what you assume is waiting for you. What is actually waiting for you is almost always less severe than what you have been imagining. The IRS has a specific program for Americans abroad in exactly this situation. It's called the Streamlined Disclosure Program, and it exists because the IRS recognizes that citizenship-based taxation is not well understood, and that many non-filers are non-filers because of confusion, not intent. To qualify, you need to be a US citizen or a green card holder living outside the United States, and your non-compliance needs to be non-willful. That means that you are not deliberately hiding income. You did not know what was required, or you knew and got overwhelmed and did not know where to start. That covers the vast majority of people that come to us. So what does the process actually look like from start to finish? The first phase is gathering documents. Income records, foreign bank account statements, local tax returns if you file, and prior US tax returns if you have them. This is usually the part most within your control and typically takes 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer depending on how far the records go back or if it spans multiple countries. The second phase is preparation. Once we have everything, preparing the returns and the FBAR filings takes roughly 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the complexity and the back and forth between the client, asking questions, etc. A few years of straightforward employment income moves faster than a longer period with freelance income, a foreign property, foreign company, etc. The third phase is submission and IRS processing. The core of the submission is a narrative statement within Form 14653 that explains your specific facts and circumstances. So it includes the following: your background, your personal financial history, including when you moved abroad and your profession, reason for non-compliance, things like ignorance of US filing requirements, also your origin of funds like salary, inheritance, and then also a summary of how you use the account, right? Was it normal for personal banking, making sure it wasn't concealing assets, and also discover your obligation, how you actually learn the need to file it. Was it a FATCA letter from a bank, watching a YouTube video from an awesome US CPA named Vincenzo, and the actions you took to become compliant. Once everything's submitted through the Streamlined program, the IRS takes several months to process. That part's out of your hands, and that's okay. So in total, from the moment you decide to start, you're typically looking at somewhere between 2 to 4 months to reach a clean filing record. And by the way, you don't get a congratulatory letter, an Amazon gift card from the IRS saying, welcome back to the US tax system. No news is good news. Of course, you could call the IRS to double check that everything's been accepted to give you that peace of mind. Now, under the Streamlined procedure, there are no penalties for FBARs or 5471 filings, only some measly interest on the amount that you owe. So for most people who qualify and submit correctly, the outcome is a clean record with a manageable resolution. In many cases, people discover that they owe less than they expected because of the FEIE and the foreign tax credit, things that were available the whole time and simply not being applied. In some situations, there is tax owed with interest, but this is far better than if the IRS reached out first, in which case you would be responsible for penalties. Coming forward proactively is the single most important variable in how the situation resolves. The client I mentioned at the beginning told me afterwards that starting the process was the biggest relief, not finishing it. Just knowing that there was a clear path forward changed everything for him. So if you're in a similar situation, the path forward is clearer than it probably looks right now. The process is structured, the timeline's finite, and the outcome is almost always better than what you've been imagining. I've been Vincenzo Villamina, CPA, founder of Online Taxman. Link in the description. We will look at your specific situation and give you a realistic picture of what catching up would actually involve. So there's no reason to keep on carrying this. Let us know if you have any questions.